Hello guys, so this is Tyree Zach again, and I decided I would do an update to my 10 favorite albums of all time. So I just thought I'd do that. Now, let's see. If I were to give some honorable mentions, I'd say, let's see, hmm, You Won't Get What You Want by Daughters, Velvet Underground and Nico by the Velvet Underground and Nico, Visions of Bodies Being Burned by Clipping, Kid A by Radiohead, and Mad Villainy by Mad Villain, which is MF Doom and Mad Lib. But anyways, on to my number 10. So my number 10 is Selected Ambient Works, 85 through 92 by Aphex Twin. He was born in Ireland. He grew up in Cornwall, England. And I've been kind of back and forth on what my favorite Aphex Twin release was. At one point it was the Richard D. James album. At one point it was Come to Daddy. But I always end up going back to this. So let me tell you why. So a lot of people say this is one of his more overrated projects, but I still really, really enjoy it. And it's just really kind of grown on me again over time. It's just really, really calming music. If you know Aphex Twin for his really crazy stuff, I understand that. But this is actually just a really, really innovative, calming, just really kind of peaceful album too. And usually with like IDM artists are kind of notorious for having very, very weird song titles, like ones that are completely unpronounceable. It just sounds like it's just like banged on the keyboard or something like that, like Aphex Twin or Autechre, for instance, or even some Boards of Canada stuff, maybe even some Sweet Trip stuff. But usually I feel like I would say even diehard Aphex Twin fans probably can't tell you what every song on Drux sound is, what the title of every song off Drux, which is so many songs, would sound like. But for me, I feel like I've listened to this and I just love this album so much. I feel like every track is kind of, well, I wouldn't say every track, but I know I can tell what music it is. Like Green Colics is that one that is that video game inspired sound. Everyone knows Xtol. Well, every Aphex Twin fan obviously knows Xtol. We Are the Music Makers, Helios Band is one of my favorites he ever did. That's one of my favorite electronic songs of all time ever. That song's awesome. But anyways, my next one is To Be Kind by Swans. And they are this is when they were in their post-rock phase, but they kind of did all different genres, but they're from New York. And this is an album they did 30 years into their career, and I actually think it's their best one. And it's 2 hours long, though. Very, very long. It's actually not their longest album, but it is a very long album, though. But it's very enjoyable all the way through. I don't think there's really a moment on this I really disliked. This is probably, I would say Soundtracks for the Blind is easily their most diverse record. But with this, it's they bring kind of a bit of everything they've done, I guess, if that makes sense. They bring in their no wave phase on some of these tracks, their noise rock stuff, there's their post rock stuff, and there's some elements of it that's just, this album is so pretty, yet so destructive and heavy at times. And it's interesting knowing that Michael Gira, as old as he is, he's still it's like his voice doesn't really age today, I guess, if that makes sense. He still just sounds great on this. Like, it's so interesting how well they can still play and everything like that. Yeah, this album's great. My favorite album of 2014, by the way. Next is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. This is a lot of diehard fans consider this to be their best, and so do I. But yeah, I love this album though. And there's not really there's only 5 songs off of this, and every track is just excellent. There's just those beautiful keyboards on like Welcome to the Machine. There's that Love Epic song. There's the Shine On You Crazy Diamond, with some just really, really good song. I think the title track, Wish You Were Here, everyone knows that. It's a really, really great song too. This album's just really, really pretty too, as far as even for Pink Floyd standards. This is a really, really beautiful record too. And I love the inclusion of acoustics along with there's some jazz elements in here, some electronic music elements in here too. Just a really, really cool album this one is. It's probably my favorite album in the 70s as well. But yeah, it is, yeah. Anyway, so my next one is Carrie Lowell by Sufjan Stevens. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time, and this is my favorite record that he's done. I think a lot of people would still probably consider Illinois to be his best album though, but I personally I enjoy this one more than Illinois, but Illinois is really great too. But, well, let's see here. So he's from Michigan, like Detroit, and this album was made after his mother passed away. So Carrie Lowell is the name of his stepfather and his mother. I think his stepfather also does music. He collaborated with Sufjan on something. Like they did a musical ambient project together one time. I think last year, I think. But yeah, this album is really, really sad, but also just really, really well put together too. And it's if you're having a bad day, it's kind of one you could probably grieve with. But there's also just some really, really beautiful moments off of this as well. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff people could probably relate to off of this too. It's gotta be one of the hardest things where people you can really lose. Anyways, my next is Velocity Design Comfort by Sweet Trip. And yeah, this album's amazing. This got reissued recently, which is really cool. I might show this because it's their color. That's the reason why I'll take this out. First one's clear. Second one, it's got to be the coolest looking record I've ever owned. You know, I like the first disc more. But the second record is really cool. It's a really cool blue. Alright, now anyways, and I'm also going to order that. You'll never know why. I know. Alright, but anyway, so yeah, this album's really, really cool. So this is kind of like this is a really, really ahead of its time album. This came out in 2004. Sorry if I didn't get that right, but I believe that's when it came out. 2004, 2003, somewhere around there. Now, a very ahead of its time record. It's kind of like an IDM album, but they also take some elements of shoegaze, glitch pop, and standard glitch music, some ambience. This is a really, really, really cool album and one of my favorite electronic albums ever. It's also my favorite IDM album too. Never thought Aphex Twin could be overthrown, but look at what he did. Yeah, but yeah, there's some really, really pretty elements on this, but the glitch effects on this are just really genius, and the samples. I've never heard anything that really sounds like this. The cover almost perfectly encapsulates what the album sounds like. And they're also really cool people in real life. I actually had a conversation with one of the members on Twitter about Iron Maiden when he posted something about them. They're really cool. They're really cool guys. And they're releasing an album sometime this year as well. I'm excited for that. Alright, now next is Fragile by 9 Inch Nails. And this was my favorite band for a really long time. They're still one of my favorites, but they're not my number one favorite band of all time anymore. But I still enjoy their music a lot, and this is definitely one of my favorite releases ever. But comes with booklets, and they reissued this. But my bad. So, my dog's barking. That's the one upstairs. All right. With this, it's kind of has a similar concept to the Downward Spiral, which is also a concept album. This is as well. This is a very long record though. It's not 2 hours long, but it's very long. It's a double album. But with this, we get some pretty diverse instrumentation on this. There's some elements of some shoegaze on here, some metal, some electronic, all different sorts of electronics off of this. There's some drum and bass, some electro-industrial, some techno, all different sorts. There's also some really, really beautiful symphonies on this as well. But yeah, this is, in my opinion, Nine Inch Nails' masterpiece, even though it's not their most well-known release. Trent Reznor himself even said that he considers this release to be his best. I can definitely see why. Yeah, the Fragile, masterpiece. Probably, and it's also my favorite album of the 90s, by the way. Next is Vespertine by Bjork. She's an Icelandic, I forgot to mention. Nine Inch Nails, they're from Ohio. Sweet Trip is from California. I don't know why I didn't, but yeah, Vespertine by Bjork, and she's from Iceland. I'll just take one record out just because they're the same color, they're white. But anyways, so Homogenic is kind of considered to be her best release, but personally I prefer this. Well, I mean, there's definitely diehard fans that probably prefer this over Homogenic, but yeah, this is her best in my opinion. This album is so pretty. This album is. And there's also some glitch elements in this too. There's some elements of glitch pop. And there's some really, really atmospheric moments in this too. And actually, I think Matt Mose, who made one of my favorite albums last year, they actually helped produce this, I believe. They did a good job as well. But yeah, and Bjork's singing on this is great as always. But just on songs like Pagan Poetry and Unison, Hidden Place, this is such a cool album. Just really, really pretty. And Bjork's masterpiece in my eyes. It's also my favorite album by a female musician. Next is In Rainbows by Radiohead. And Kid A was my favorite Radiohead album for a really, really long time. I think I prefer this one over it now. And I think it's just because I love how colorful this is. Maybe that's why they called it In Rainbows. It's just such a colorful album. But there's also just Jigsaw Falling Into Place. I've been listening to that song a lot. That's such an awesome song. It's just and while I love electronic music, there's still definitely some electronic elements on it, but not as apparent as something on Kid A or Amnesiac, but they're still on there. Song 15 Step has that on there, but I'd say the most influenced one, trip hop influence, electronic influence one is definitely All I Need. That song's really pretty too, and that's not even one of the best songs off the album, but it's still such an amazing track. And I'd personally probably say a lot of Radiohead's best stuff probably lands on this. This came out in 2007, by the way, and they're from England. But yeah, this album is just really, really good. Yeah, I don't think there's really a dull moment on this one either. Even the song, Videotape, that would probably be a magnum opus for an artist, and it's not even my favorite song off the album. Next is my second favorite album of all time is Spirit They're Gone, Spirit They've Vanished by A.B. Terror and Panda Bear, and now it's considered to be the debut studio album by Animal Collective. And this is also a very rare album. This album cost me $100. And this was my favorite for a long time. And my favorite song of all time is actually on this album, the song Alvin Rowe. But this was my favorite album for a really long time. But now it's just my number 2. But I feel like this album is something I can really, really relate to. There's a sense of having to grow up, leaving your childhood behind, having adult responsibilities. That's kind of what the main idea of the album is. But he also, in my eyes, it's mostly about A.B. Terror, his life growing up, but he kind of uses different characters to kind of describe different points in his life. It's a very, very personal record. But there's also really, really noisy elements off this, and I think that's a lot of people may not like this when they first hear it, is because the album is very harsh. There's really, really noisy sounds off of this. But after further listens, it really doesn't bother me, the noise, and I actually find some of the noisy elements to be quite relaxing and atmospheric at times. And there's also a lot of progressive elements on this as well, which I really love. When I really love the idea of progressive pop music, and that's kind of what this kind of has on here. But yeah, this is a really, really pretty album, and I don't think there's really anything else that sounds like it. And they were also both really young adults, like 18 or 19 when they made this, which is pretty incredible. And it's my favorite Animal Collective release. And by the way, they're from Maryland. Yeah, they're from Maryland. I think Panda Bear was born in Virginia, but they're both from Maryland. Baltimore, I think. My number one, The Powers That Be by Death Grips. This is my favorite album of 2015 and my favorite album of all time, obviously. And it's a double album. On the Moon and Jenny Death. And I actually prefer Jenny Death over On the Moon. But these two, if they were both separate albums, I'd probably say these would be my top two favorite albums ever. Like Jenny Death is the better half, but this half is almost as good, I'd say. So they're both very different albums though. It's the first and second disc. The first disc was released in 2014. The second disc was released in 2015. And obviously the whole album at that point. And the first disc is a fan favorite. Because it's just such a creative, like I'd say the one that's the most unique, I'd definitely say the first disc. But basically the first disc just had MC Riot on vocals. Then it just had Zach Hill took a V-drum, sampled Bjork's voice and all this other crazy stuff. And they used that as the instrumentation, basically. The whole instrumentation was made on that drum set. And I'd say it's their weirdest album yet. Is On the Moon. And it's also has some of Riot's like weirdest, darkest lyrics too, and some of his weirdest elements, like on that song, like fuck that with the boom blah boom blah 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 blah, like where he just goes on blabbling, which some people may like what? But I like that song. There's not a song I dislike off of this either. I'd say I even like that one. It's as weird as it is, I like it. But you'd think like it's so genius because it's so crazy how he does this with the drums, yet everything works so well. And the second disc, I think, is even better. But the second disc, Jenny Death, is in a more punk rock based or noise rock based direction, with there's some metal in there. There's some like standard trap music in there too. There's some noise rock elements. But yeah, I think whatever they did, it worked. Like, Jenny Death is my favorite album ever, I'd probably say. And then probably that one, then On the Moon. But, yeah, Jenny Death. My favorite song by them, probably my second favorite song ever, On GP. That song is amazing. That song has great guitar work, and there's really, really personal lyrics. I'm surprised that they would really even get into. It's really, really sad to listen to too. It's MC Riot and his struggle with suicide, depression, what that song kind of details. But also there's some really, really amazing elements, such on like the song Why a Bitch Gotta Lie. That's one of my favorites off of this too, and it kind of has this metal breakdown. That's just awesome. That song is. It has this auto-tune vocals. It's just so weird, but it's so cool too. And there's that one song, that weird song about pissing on people. Psst, psst. I mean, that song is weird, but I like it. And the first track, I Break Mirrors in My Face in the United States, kind of has this digital hardcore kind of sound of a really, really hardcore punk kind of inspired sound. That's one of the only songs where they don't cuss at all, but that song is great too. Inanimate Sensation, that's one of my top 3 on the album. But if that was on one group's artist project, I probably consider that to be their magnum opus. But what do you know? It's not even my top 2 favorite off the album, Inanimate Sensation. But that song's amazing too. Has this I don't know what they use. I think they just did that into the microphone. I don't know how they made it sound good, but it does. But Oh my gosh, and that just I just love this album, Jenny Duff. It's such a great album. But anyways, that's about it, guys. That's my 10 favorite albums of all time. It's an update for it. And hope you guys enjoyed this list. Have a good day. Bye.